It was the kind of alley you wouldn't notice unless you had a reason to. Narrow, dark even during the day, and paved with uneven cobblestones slick with years of grime. I hadn't planned to be there, not that night, not ever, but I was running late, and it was a shortcut. The street lamps behind me offered a pitiful glow that barely extended into the alley's mouth. Once I stepped in, the shadows swallowed me whole. My breath puffed visibly in the cool air, and I shoved my hands deep into my jacket pockets, trying to ignore the growing sense of unease. That's when I saw it. The cat. At first it was just a pair of eyes, glowing faintly green in the dim light, fixed on me from a perch atop a crumbling brick wall. I stopped. It was the kind of gaze that pinned you in place, as though it was deciding whether you'd pass some silent test. Its fur was black, so black it seemed to drink in the scant light around it. The only thing more unsettling than its eyes was the stillness. Cats don't sit that still. They twitch, they blink, they move. This one didn't. "Hey there," I muttered, because silence felt heavier than words. The cat's tail flicked once, deliberate and slow, but it didn't look away. It made me feel like I'd intruded on something sacred or forbidden. Shaking off the chill creeping up my spine, I broke its gaze and kept walking. The alley stretched farther than I'd remembered. The air grew colder, and the sounds of the city faded until only the soft tap of my boots against the stone echoed around me. I glanced over my shoulder. The cat was gone. Or so I thought. As I turned back, there it was, directly in my path. I stopped so suddenly that my foot slipped on the damp stone. It didn't make a sound, it just appeared, sitting primly in the center of the alley. Its eyes bore into mine, unwavering, and now that it was closer, I noticed its fur wasn't entirely black. Subtle patches shimmered like oil slicks when it moved, though the air was still. "Shoo," I said, waving a hand. My voice sounded too loud in the confined space. The cat's ears twitched, but it didn't move. Fine, whatever. I stepped to the side, giving it a wide berth, and walked on. That's when I heard it. A sound that wasn't my footsteps, wasn't the rustle of fabric. A whispering, so faint it could have been mistaken for the wind if there had been any. I stopped. The whispering stopped. My pulse quickened. Slowly I turned, expecting to see the cat still sitting where I'd left it. But it wasn't. It was behind me again, close enough now that I could see the gleam of sharp teeth as its mouth opened slightly. A low sound emerged, not quite a hiss, not quite a growl. My stomach twisted. It didn't make sense. How had it moved so quickly, so silently? "Nice kitty," I said, my voice unsteady. I stepped backward, but the cat didn't follow. Instead, it tilted its head, like it was studying me, evaluating me. Its mouth curled into something that almost looked like a grin. The whispering started again. Louder this time, but still unintelligible, like dozens of voices speaking at once just out of earshot. I looked around, my eyes darting to the shadows that clung to the alley walls. I couldn't see anything, but I felt it. A presence. Several, maybe. The air grew heavier, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I turned back to the cat, but it was gone again. This time, I didn't hear it move or feel it watching me. I told myself it was just a stray, a figment of my overactive imagination fueled by the eerie atmosphere. But deep down, I didn't believe it. The alley felt endless. My steps quickened, each one a little louder, a little more frantic, until I was almost running. The whispering followed, always just behind me, and with it came the sensation of eyes, hundreds of them, crawling over my skin, watching, waiting. I didn't dare look back. Then I tripped. My foot caught on an uneven stone, and I went down hard, scraping my palms against the rough cobbles. Pain flared, but I barely registered it. My heart was pounding too loudly, my breathing too ragged. As I pushed myself up, I realized the whispering had stopped. For a moment, there was nothing. Just the sound of my breathing and a distant hum of the city beyond the alley. Then I heard it. A purr. Deep and resonant, it echoed through the alley, vibrating in my chest. I froze, every instinct screaming at me to run, but I couldn't move. The cat emerged from the shadows, its gait slow and deliberate. It looked larger now, its eyes brighter, its fur glistening like liquid night. It stopped a few feet away, and for the first time, I noticed something impossible. Its shadow didn't match its form. While the cat itself sat motionless, the shadow writhed, stretching and twisting unnaturally, shapes flickering within it that made my stomach churn. "What do you want?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The cat tilted its head again, and its mouth opened wider, too wide. The purring grew louder, almost deafening, and the shadows around it began to bleed into the alley, creeping toward me like living tendrils. Panic surged through me, and I scrambled backward, my palms slipping on the slick stone. The shadows reached me first. Cold and insubstantial, they coiled around my limbs, pulling, dragging me closer to the cat. My vision blurred, and the world tilted, the alley dissolving into a void of blackness. The last thing I saw was the cat's face, impossibly close, its eyes filling my entire vision. Then everything went dark. I don't know how long I was out. When I awoke, I was lying at the mouth of the alley, the faint glow of the street lamps casting long shadows. My hands were clean, unscathed, and the air was silent. Too silent. I sat up slowly, my body aching as though I'd run a marathon. The alley behind me was empty, just an ordinary passageway damp with condensation and littered with trash. The whispers, the shadows, the cat, all gone. But as I stood and stumbled away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. To this day, I avoid that alley. I tell myself it was a nightmare, a trick of the mind brought on by exhaustion and fear. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it. A faint purring just beyond the edge of hearing, accompanied by the sensation of eyes I can't see but know are there. Waiting,